made with spoken. Rift Rangers, Volume 1, by DM KRULICKI. Digital narration performed by the Klondike players. The Helix was not a place, in the way mortals thought of a place. It spiraled outside of time, latticed arcs of light and matter folding into one another in infinite recursion. To an outsider, it might look like a cathedral built by geometry itself. Hollow rings of radiant glyphs spinning without friction, each orbit holding within it projections of timelines fast and delicate. In its center stood the Watchers. They did not stand in the human sense. They were anchored and unanchored all at once, their translucent forms humming with pale energy. Dozens of obsidian black eyes blinked open across their elongated heads, as fragments of futures cascaded before them, like waterfalls of glass. Normally, foresight came easily, past and future layered neatly, predictable like the flow of a river. But now, the rift bomb had churned the waters. Entire tributaries bent away into sudden tangles, foaming eddies of unknowns. Where clarity had once stretched ahead in endless clean lines, there was only haze, static, possibilities collapsing and collapsing again. One Watcher's voice echoed across the chamber, dissonant and calm.
The Rangers are in motion. Their captain advances, yet the strands resist focus.
Another replied, its words vibrating like struck crystal.
Klondike remains an anchor point, but the ripples cloud him. What we foresaw no longer holds. His choices diverge.
A third flickered with unease. For a Watcher to betray even a trace of hesitation was extraordinary.
The anomaly of the Terran female, Jojo Jet. She was not calculated to bond with him, and yet she does. Will this closeness corrupt judgment?
Their pooled awareness swept across a vision. David and Jojo leaning too close in the hangar bay, laughter fading into silence, eyes locked. Their timeline threads glowed faint, then shimmered out of view, severed by static.
Unforeseen entanglement,
another Watcher concluded.
Entanglement leads to fracture. Fracture leads to collapse. Affection bends judgment. Desire shapes outcome. Shall he falter where others stood firm? He is not like others. He carries the signature, the legacy. And yet, even the chosen may err when bound by longing.
But there was worse. At the far edge of their perception, blurred by interference, a figure loomed cloaked and faceless. The pirate captain. Normally, such an intruder's lineage would be obvious. The Watchers knew every DNA sequence ever birthed across charted space. But when they sought the origin, the data broke apart, like sand slipping between fingers.
The pirate captain carries the resonance of Klondike himself. It echoes, but distorts. We cannot reconcile it. Then he fights himself, or will fight, or has fought. It is unclear. The future is clouded.
The chamber darkened as their combined attention bent inward. Glyphs flickered erratically, spiraling into unreadable knots. One Watcher, elder among them, pulsed brighter.
Our foresight shortens. Already the bomb denies our reach. If we cannot see, then intervention must replace observation.
Murmurs rattled through the Helix. Sending additional teams was no light decision. The IPC did not scatter its agents like seeds in the wind. Each deployment risks revealing too much, breaking too many laws of balance.
Should Klondike fail, the artifact will be lost. Should he succeed but falter, corruption spreads within the core itself.
They weighed the unthinkable, a contingency strike, a shadow team dispatched to trail him unseen, to ensure success by any means.
The Terran is pivotal, but he grows. Unpredictable.
Their voices overlapped now, a haunting chorus.
Will he endure, or collapse? Will she prove his salvation, or his undoing?
The Helix shuddered, and for the first time in a millennium, silence fell between them. The ship hummed steadily under their boots, engines pushing hard for the fractured currents of space. Every console on the bridge glowed with shifting data, streams of light folding back on themselves like water over glass. But then, silence. The trail vanished. David's throat tightened.
Where the hell did they go?
His voice had that edge he hated, panic bleeding through. Jojo's fingers flew faster across the hollow surface, sparks of frustrated determination in her eyes.
It's not me,
she insisted.
They dropped a ghost node, burned the line clean.
Mao, arms crossed, spoke low but with precision.
Search the subfractal layer. Increase the passband. Half your readings are blind without it.
Jojo froze mid-gesture, staring at him.
Wait, you know what a subfractal passband is?
The corners of her lips twitched into an incredulous grin.
Mal, wow, I'm so proud of you right now.
He didn't look up, just gave a gravel-deep grunt of confirmation. And then the console sang. A ripple of light, faint but real, crept back onto their trajectory screen. Jojo gasped, heart hammering.
There, got them. They're headed straight for...
She squinted at the recalibrated overlay, the coordinates burning into sharp clarity. Her smile died.
Earth.
The bridge went quiet, every eye darting to David. The glowing coordinates locked in. The planet turned slowly on the display, blue and green against the black. Earth. The silence broke with 9, his synth voice pitching into theatrical grit.
None of this would have happened if it wasn't for that king shit cop. All I wanted was something to eat.
David's head snapped around, a grin spreading despite himself.
Rambo, great quote.
He reached out and slapped 9's metallic hand with a sharp high five. The clang echoed. Sarah leaned back in her chair, arms folded, voice dripping with disdain.
Well, if it isn't the home of the Klondike.
Zilch let out a wet, bubbling sound that might have been a sigh.
Oh, Terra, do you think they still have the holy grail of all devices? The fax machine.
His spittle hit the console, sizzling faintly.
Imagine the thermal version. They were so ahead of their time.
Zilch was still capable of slightly dripping sarcasm. Jojo's smile had evaporated. Her fingers stilled over the controls, and her voice softened into concern.
But what timeline or version is this? Yours, mine, or something else?
Miles' heavy form leaned over the sensor relay, his scarred hands precise as he adjusted the feed.
Late 20th to early 21st century. Right around your period, Captain. Records confirm it's close to the correct timeline.
Sarah tilted her head, eyes narrowing on David.
Then the real question is, what would the pirates want with your timeline?
David's chest tightened.
Why now? What year exactly? Am I even born yet? Or am I already gone?
His thoughts chased themselves in frantic loops.
My parents, are they still alive here? Boy, do I have questions.
A deeper chill cut through him. Michelle. His heart lurched, hammering so hard it felt like it might leap into his throat. Sweat prickled across his brow, his stomach a knot of acid. Focus.
Where are they?
David's voice cut across the bridge, hoarse, commanding. The reply came a beat later, flat, clinical.
They have landed in the landmass known as North America,
reported the nav screen.
Pacific Northwest Quadrant.
Specifics.
David barked, the edge in his tone making Jojo flinch. Mal's gravel voice followed as he interpreted the readings.
Borderlines at this time recognize it as British Columbia. Fraser Valley. Town of Hope.
David's blood froze.
Shit, that's my hometown.
Coordinates tightening.
Mal went on, steady as ever.
Top of a land rise designated Thacker Mountain.
David's jaw slackened.
Holy shit, that's right behind my old trailer, where I grew up.
His stomach twisted harder.
Why are they there? What the hell are they digging for?
Captain, sir.
Zilch gurgled from the medic's post, saliva flecking his chin.
You look troubled.
David snapped his head toward Zilch, his tone sharper than he intended.
I'm fine, damn it. Just keep your drooling to the instruments and do your job.
The crew exchanged quick glances but said nothing. Only Jojo lingered on him, her gaze narrowing in that quietly observant way she had. She'd seen cracks in him before, but never quite like this. Her fingers worked quickly at her console, subtle, hidden, and unnoticed by the crew. A flick through encrypted personnel files, cross-reference with geo-coordinates, map overlays. When the confirmation blinked on screen, her stomach dropped. Hope. Thacker Mountain. His file. This is where he's from. Her eyes widened. She looked at David again, not with suspicion, but with sudden raw concern. She didn't say it out loud. She knew better than to expose him in front of the others, but she couldn't keep silent altogether.
Captain,
She said softly, leaning into her seat like it was casual.
I think we should go down. Scout the perimeter of the land rise. Maybe even as a group. You know, for support and stuff.
David's jaw was tight, his voice clipped.
No, we don't split hairs with timeline interference. Every second counts down there.
His hand drifted to the small wristband resting on the console, the keepsake he called Monty Klondike, a relic and a friend. He snatched it up, pressing the command node.
Descend.
He growled, eyes locked on the viewports.
Find us a good hiding spot for the craft. Somewhere they won't see us coming.
The ship hummed, nose angling down toward the landmass below. David didn't move, his knuckles white against the armrest.
They're at my home, my childhood. If they touch anything, if they change anything.
Jojo swallowed, keeping her discovery buried for now. but she never looked away from him. She could see the storm gathering behind his eyes. The craft whispered into the dark, engines muted, lights dead, as if it were a shadow itself, hidden by the broken silhouette of an old railway shack at the base of Thacker Mountain. No curious eyes from Hope would ever know it had landed. David stood alone in the airlock for a long moment, his jaw clenched, pulse hammering against his ribs. Then the hatch hissed and the ramp lowered. He descended into the cool night, boots sinking into damp earth. Past dusk, almost night. No glow from the ship, no stars betraying their presence. Only the rhythm of crickets and the faint rustle of wind through pine. He moved quickly, low and quiet, weaving through undergrowth, until he broke into the open field that spread toward the familiar outline of his childhood home. The trailer sat hunched on its multi-acre patch of land, exactly where memory told him it should be. But it was wrong. No car in the drive. His father's old beater should have been there. No bark split the silence. Kelly, his dog, should have been tearing across the grass at the first hint of footsteps. His chest tightened. Too late in the timeline, or something worse. David crouched in the shadows of the barn, eyes sharp, breath steady. He waited, scanning for any flicker of movement, any glint of the pirates. But the trailer was dark. Silent. Dead. The steady crunch of tires on gravel snapped his focus. Around the bend of the long drive, a motorcycle burst into view, headlamp glaring white as it fishtailed around the corner and shot toward the house. David ducked deeper into the brush beside the barn, pressing himself into the shadows. He held still, heartbeat a war drum in his ears. The rider was black-clad, racing leathers, boots, helmet polished midnight. The machine growled once, then died as the figure swung a leg over and dismounted. Boots crunched gravel. Silence swallowed the land again. A motion sensor clicked. The porch light flared. The rider climbed the steps, gloved hand rising toward the helmet latch. Then it stopped. The helmet froze. The rider's head turned slightly, just enough. Listening.
Shit. Did he hear me, see me?
David didn't move. Not a breath, not a twitch. Every nerve screamed to turn, to watch. But he stayed stone still. The porch light clicked off. Darkness reclaimed the yard. Still no movement. David dared to lift his head. Bang! Agony shot through his back as a hard boot slammed him forward into the grass. Before he could draw breath, another kick drove into his stomach. Air fled his lungs in a choking gasp.
Who the fuck are you? What are you doing on my property, asshole?
That voice. God. That voice. David rolled, clutching his ribs, eyes wide. The world tilted. No, it couldn't be. He blinked, disbelief, turning his veins to ice. A face out of time, a ghost with fists in fury. Brian, his brother, the one who had drowned, dead when David was 15. But Brian was here, older, harder, standing over him in leathers, helmet tucked under one arm. But Brian had never owned a bike. He had never lived at the trailer. This was wrong. This was so fucking wrong. David sputtered.
Brian?
Yeah, who the fuck are you? You haven't told me why you're on my land. You got 2 seconds to spill it, or I get my gun.
It's me, Brian. Your youngest bro, David.
Brian froze, eyes narrowing, then reached around his back and drew a 9mm pistol. The metallic snap of the slide racking echoed like thunder in David's ears. He leveled it straight at him.
I don't have any brothers. Try again.
David's stomach dropped. The words hit harder than the boot had. The timeline was shredded here, broken in a way that made no sense. This wasn't right. None of it. A sharp thump, rock on gravel, snapped Brian's head toward the driveway. The brief distraction was enough. Jojo burst from the shadows, charging low and fast. She slammed into him from behind with a grunt. Brian's breath shot out, and the pistol clattered from his grip. Jojo rolled cleanly, snatched it up, and swung it back around with a soldier's precision. She had the stance, the glare, the look of someone hardened by campaigns she'd never fought. For a second, David felt a rush of something sharp and hot in his chest, like that feeling when your childhood movie starlet crush suddenly walks out in real life in front of you. Damn, maybe her training really had stuck. Maybe she'd just been waiting for the right moment. Brian scrambled up, hands raised, backing a few steps, eyes locked on Jojo. His confusion flickered to anger, then back again.
What the hell is this? Who are you people?
What the hell? I told you to stay put.
David's voice was strained, anger mixing with fear.
Boss, you really think I'm going to let you go out here alone? Especially knowing what this place is to you?
Her eyes flicked at him, steel sharp.
Yes, I read up on you. Sorry.
Jojo, listen.
No more words.
Her tone was hard, decisive.
This guy is not supposed to be here. He's part of the disruption. The less we interact with him, the better it is for the timeline. And for you. Sorry, Captain.
David turned back to Brian, his throat closing. Brian's face was baffled, full of recognition and denial all at once.
I don't know what the hell's happening, but you sure look like a younger version of my dad. Who are you really?
David couldn't answer. His heart tore in two, joy and grief colliding, screaming to reach out, to grab his brother and never let go. But this wasn't him. Not the Brian who raised him, who left with him. This was just a shadow, a warped echo. And he couldn't afford to drown in it. He needed to move. He needed to find the pirates. Jojo saw the struggle in his face, knew the moment he was about to break. Without hesitation, she slapped the control on her belt. A ripple of light pulsed out, invisible to normal eyes, and the world around them staggered, then slowed into a crawl. Time bent to their will. Birds froze mid-flight. Branches stilled mid-sway. Brian's expression locked in a grimace, frozen between suspicion and disbelief. It wasn't meant for this. Temporo Kit was for extraction after missions, for escapes when objectives were done. Not for emotional rescues. But Jojo didn't care. Not now. Not when Klondike himself needed saving from the past.
Come on.
She said, voice low, steady.
For your sake, for all of ours.
David and Jojo slipped through the horse paddocks, angling across the far edge of the field. They moved fast but low, shadows within shadows, heading toward the faint glow of town. The tree line broke near the old railway bridge, the only crossing to Hope this side of the river, aside from the golf course bridge further downstream. If they wanted to get to the pirates, this was the way. As the effect of the temporal kit wore off, Jojo's sensors pulsed faint blue across her visor.
Picking something up,
She whispered, scanning east.
Temporal residue. Trails thin, 1 or 2 individuals, slow-moving, headed into town.
She adjusted the readout, frowning.
Feels like a breadcrumb trail. Either they're searching for something or laying a trap.
David's jaw tightened.
It's always a trap.
The bridge loomed before them, steel and wood black against the starlight. The creak of the old timbers, the steady hush of the river below. Memories struck in like hammer blows. He saw himself and his old friend Jason, grinning idiots, rigging straps from bookbinding scraps and an old rope, rappelling off this very bridge to drop into the current. They had ridden the river all the way to the golf course, laughing, reckless, invincible. No fear of broken bones or drowning, just boys against the world. And then, another memory, sharper, softer. The first time he held Michelle's hand. Right here, on these tracks, the warmth of her palm, the shy squeeze, the way time itself had seemed to pause. He swallowed hard, pulse racing. Michelle. Could she be here? Just to see her again. Just a glimpse. No. Focus. Mission. The boards thudded softly under their boots as they crossed. The other side gave way to residential streets, dim and quiet, but achingly familiar. Every corner, every fence post felt etched into his palms. Houses had changed, siding painted, roofs sagging, but the layout was identical to his memories. He could walk through this town blindfolded.
The trail's thinning.
Jojo murmured, studying her display.
Still there, but faint. Like they're dragging their feet, taking their time.
David's eyes narrowed.
Or waiting.
Block after block, the streets pulled him deeper into the past. And then, the one street he dreaded. The road curved, the houses shifted, and he knew exactly where they were. Halfway down the block on the left sat a house he'd visited countless times as a kid. Both joy and bile rose in his throat. Jason's house. The memories of laughter, games, but also ridicule and venom. A place of friendship turned sour. His lip curled.
I hope he's dead, asshat.
The trail stops up ahead,
Jojo said, her voice low and urgent.
Captain, it ends at that yard.
David lifted his gaze. The front gate of Jason's house swung wide on rusty hinges, yawning open into darkness. No movement, no sound.
What the hell would the pirates want here?
He muttered, dread coiling in his gut.
Why Jason's house?
The pirate captain stood alone on the quiet street, shrouded in darkness. The house before them was too familiar, etched into memory like a scar. Each step toward it felt heavier than the last. The hooded figure mounted the narrow concrete stairs slowly, boots scraping against weathered stone. Up to the small landing, up to the storm door. A pale hand reached forward, hesitant, and pulled it open. The hinges groaned in protest. The porch smelled of dust, and forgotten summers. Breath rattled in their chest now, ragged and uneven. The mask of command, a fearless authority, faltered here. Nerves of steel gave way to hesitation, to something almost like dread. A trembling finger pressed the doorbell. Ding-dong. The chime had echoed hollow through the house. Moments later, shadows stirred behind the stained glass inset of the inner door. A lock clicked. The knob turned with aching slowness, the door opening inward, as if bracing for an intruder.
May I help you?
The voice was light, airy, almost feminine despite the masculine frame. The man was thin, middle-aged, neat as a pin in his pressed business attire. The faint scent of barbasol clung to him, undercut by the acrid tang of cigarette smoke. His jet-black hair was slicked back with gel, combed to precision, as a barber would do for himself. The captain's breath caught. They knew him too well. Alan. Pans lifted, pale against the dark fabric, and gripped the rim of the hood. With a slow, deliberate motion, the captain pushed it back, revealing their face.
Hi, Alan,
They said softly, the words quivering between past and present.
Is Jason home?
Alan's eyes widened. His face drained of color, then flushed red in an instant. His breath choked on itself, and when he spoke again, the words shook with rage.
You've got a hell of a nerve showing up here.
The captain blinked, thrown by the venom.
Alan, it's me. I need to see Jason.
The man stiffened, his voice snapping like a whip.
Jason's dead.
The words struck harder than any weapon. They staggered half a step, breath faltering.
No, that's not possible. I just...
Alan stepped forward, forcing them back with the weight of his fury.
He died years ago, a night out with friends gone wrong. You were there. Don't you dare stand on my porch and act like you don't remember. You were at the center of the whole goddamn homicide investigation. My boy never came home because of you, Michelle.
Michelle's lips parted, but no words came. Her heart hammered in her chest, ice crawling down her spine. Jason, dead? Because of her? The rift occurrences had twisted the universe more than she realized. Her plan, her certainty, suddenly hung on sand. Alan's eyes narrowed, filling with tears he refused to shed.
Get out of here, before I call the police, or worse.
Michelle stood frozen on the porch, every breath jagged, her mind fracturing. For the first time, the pirate captain faltered. The mask slipped, revealing the girl she had once been, confronted not with power but with loss, blame, and the impossible truth of a world broken beyond her control. David and Jojo crept along the hedgerow, keeping to the shadows, every movement slow and deliberate. The faint glow of a porch light cut through the branches, illuminating a figure on the steps. David squinted, breath catching. He recognized the man at the door instantly. Alan, Jason's father. He hadn't aged a day in David's memory. The sharp features, the pressed shirt, the slick back hair. What the hell was he doing here, alive and unchanged in this warped timeline? But what froze him wasn't Alan. It was the figure silhouetted against him, cloaked, hooded, the pirate captain. David's stomach twisted. Why was the pirate here, of all places, talking to Ellen? Some kind of setup? Were they baiting him? The suspicion burned sharp and hot. He gestured for Jojo to hold as he strained to listen. Voices rose through the night. Alan's voice, angry, cutting. But the captain's reply, it wasn't cold, commanding. It was soft, frayed, almost feminine. David's brow furrowed, confusion breaking his focus. That tone didn't fit. None of this made sense. Jojo shifted closer, whispering.
Something's wrong. That doesn't sound like a leader of pirates.
Before David could respond, a burst of static cracked through the night. Harsh forces over Michelle's comm unit. Pirate chatter.
Targets confirmed. 2 signatures on approach. Advise immediate action.
David cursed under his breath. They'd been spotted. Up on the porch, the captain stiffened at the sound of the comm. Her head turned sharply, scanning, instincts, screaming. The hesitation ended. In one swift motion, her hood was yanked up, concealing her face in shadow once more. She moved fast, fury overtaking hesitation. A boot slammed into Alan's stomach. He doubled over, gasping, stumbling backward into the house. The crack of his skull against the fireplace hearth rang out sickeningly, echoing through the night. Then, silence. Alan's body stilled on the floor, blood trickling from his temple. The captain stood above him, chest heaving, trembling with rage. Jason, dead. Her plans, shattered. And Alan, Jason's father, always an obstacle, always despised from the first time she'd met him. Ending him felt good. cathartic.
Useless man.
She thought coldly.
Nothing but dead weight. Fuck it.
She hissed under her breath.
Plan B.
She spun, cloak swirling wide to obscure her features, making sure nothing of her identity could be seen. No trace, no witness left alive. Then she bolted from the porch, cloak snapping behind her, feet pounding the pavement as she tore off toward the center of town. David's heart hammered in his chest, caught between shock and disbelief. He'd seen enough to know this wasn't just another pirate operation. Something deeper, stranger, was unraveling. And whoever that captain really was, they'd just killed Alan. Michelle, pirate captain, no longer, but a woman unraveling, sprinted into the night, cloak snapping behind her as she tore through the streets of hope. Her breath came in ragged bursts, half choked by fury, half driven by desperation. The comm unit crackled at her ear, and she snapped into it between gasps.
Get the craft hot. I want engines primed and shields on standby. You'll have coordinates in 60 seconds, no more.
She cut the transmission and pushed harder, boots striking pavement in a staccato rhythm. The streets blurred past, familiar and alien all at once. Every corner brought her closer to the house she'd once called home. Her childhood home. The one she swore she'd left behind when she went off to university. Now it was all she had left. Her mind spun like a broken record, looping, calculating, maintain control, find another way, adapt. Every possible path split and folded like a supercomputer grinding probabilities. She clenched her jaw, sweat stinging her eyes.
I need to stop the fucking Baron. He isn't in this timeline anymore because of David and that stupid bitch cadet. She ruined years of planning for fuck's sake.
She rounded a corner, lungs burning, her thoughts twisted tighter.
If I can map the extent of the temporal damage here, I can mitigate it elsewhere. Redirect. Rebuild.
The house loomed ahead, smaller than she remembered. Windows dark, porch sagging, but still standing. A relic of a time she hated and longed for in equal measure.
At my old house, before I left for university, I left my journal there.
Her pulse spiked.
Names. Numbers. Every relative, every ally the Baron kept close. I tracked them all just in case he ever tried it again. Just in case he came back.
Her steps faltered, just for a second, as memories cracked through the present. Echoes of shouting, the Baron's hand raised, the sting of his words, the suffocating dread of being trapped under his shadow, abuse, torture, years stolen. She bit down on the pain and forced herself forward.
If I can get that journal, I can still move. I can find his threads, find where he's hiding across the timelines, visit every one of them if I have to, and I'll butterfly effect his ass to death.
She tightened her fists, nails digging into her palms, as she closed in on the front gate of her old house.
He's dead here. Gone. But in another thread, another world. He's waiting, and I'll be there.
Michelle didn't care who was inside. The house, the neighborhood, the whole damn town could burn for all it mattered. She was done hiding. She stormed up the walkway and planted a boot square against the front door. The hinges shrieked as the frame splintered, the door slamming inward off its latch. She strode down the narrow hall without hesitation, cloak snapping behind her, heading straight for her old bedroom. Every step was muscle memory, every board creak a ghost of the past. But when she reached the end of the hall, she stopped dead. Her breath halted. The door wasn't there. Not even a frame. Instead, drywall, smooth and clean, sealing it off like the room had never existed.
What the fuck?
Her hand twitched, itching for her blade, for her blaster, anything to make sense of the wrongness. A voice drifted up from the basement, nervous and sharp.
Who's up there? What are you doing in my house? I've got a gun.
Michelle froze, then smirked, recognition curling her lips. That voice. Her sister, always younger, sometimes funny, mostly a pain in the ass. No time for this bullshit. She had bigger ghosts to chase. She snarled, raised her leg, and drove a savage kick into the drywall where her door should have been. Dud. Pain exploded through her shin. Concrete.
Ow! Motherfucker!
She staggered back, clutching her leg. Rage surged hotter.
Where is my room? Where is it?
Her voice cracked, hoarse with fury.
Fuck!
Her hand shot beneath her cloak, pulling a satchel free. She yanked out a thermal grenade, thumbed it active, slapped it to the wall, and dove around the hall corner, cloak wrapping tight. The blast ripped through the drywall and frame, shattering the hallway with dust and mortar. The house shook with the impact, windows rattling, Her sister's scream echoed from the basement. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Michelle coughed through the haze, eyes burning, heart hammering as she peered through the smoke and ruin. And then she saw it. Nothing. The wall gaped open into the backyard. There was no room, no journal, no trace of what she remembered. If it had existed, it was gone. Never in this timeline. Erased. Her face twisted crimson, every muscle shaking. Rage vibrated through her chest, boiling up until she couldn't hold it back. She threw her head back and screamed, a guttural, animal roar that rattled the shattered glass in its frames. No time left. Police lights were flashing in the distance, sirens bearing down. She spun, cloak whipping, and bolted out the back, vanishing into the night. Her comm crackled in her ear as she relayed sharp clip coordinates to her crew.
Plan fucking C, I guess.
David and Jojo tore through the night, lungs burning, boots cracking hard against gravel and grass. As they followed the faint temporal trail Jojo's scanner painted across the duck. They were closing the distance fast, maybe 500 meters behind, when the world erupted. The shockwave rippled out, a bloom of fire and dust lighting the horizon. Heat kissed their faces as both instinctively skidded to a stop, arms raised to shield against flying grit. David squinted through the glare, jaw dropping.
Holy shit. That came from where Michelle's house is. Used to be, I think.
His voice cracked, part disbelief, part dread. He swallowed hard.
Let's check it out.
They sprinted low and quiet, ducking into the shadows of bushes and fences until the glow of flames rose in front of them. Emergency crews were already converging, sirens blaring, lights flashing as firefighters wrestled hoses against the inferno consuming the old home. The night was alive with chaos. David crouched behind a parked car, staring at the burning wreck. His chest ached, eyes wide.
That's her house, all right? No mistake.
His voice dropped, colder.
So, the pirate captain stops at Jason's place, bolts, runs to Michelle's old home, and blows it to hell. What the fuck is going on? Why does this all revolve around me and my past?
Jojo leaned beside him, eyes sharp but confused.
I don't know, Captain, but I want to get to the bottom of it just as bad as you.
Before either could say more, the comms unit on Jojo's belt chirped, static, then Zilch's tinny voice. Oh!
Captain, Cadet, we've got movement. Cloak signature just flared. It's leaving the atmosphere. Pirates are on the run.
David's jaw tightened, rage pushing down the grief clawing in his chest. He keyed his mic, voice grim.
Then come pick us up. We're done here.
They watched the flames devour Michelle's house, as the night howled with sirens and chaos, the weight of unanswered questions pressing heavier with every breath. The scene lingered on chaos. Fire crews shouted orders back and forth, hoses blasting against the warring blaze that had been Michelle's childhood home. Red and blue lights strobed across the street, neighbors pressed against caution tape, voices rising in panic and confusion. The flames chewed the night sky, sirens wailing, firefighters shouting over the roar. Strangers and looky-loos balked from behind the barricades, wide-eyed at the ruin. And then, as the smoke drifted low across the street, the chaos seemed to narrow to a single still image. A woman in a robe, soot staining her cheeks, stared blankly at what had been Michelle's home. She turned slowly, her voice small, cracked with disbelief.
Like seriously, what the fuck just happened here?
An arm slid around her shoulders. A man's voice answered, calm, steady, achingly familiar.
I don't know, honey, but we've got insurance. The baby's safe. And the dogs, too. That's what matters.
She leaned into him as the fire raged on, soot streaked across both their faces. And in the firelight, the man's features came clear. David. Not their David, but another timeline buried. Married to Michelle's sister, settled, ordinary, utterly unaware of the storm that had passed within reach of his doorstep. It was the kind of cruel cosmic joke that made the universe itself feel like it was. The pirate captain stormed aboard her craft like a hurricane, cloak torn with soot and fury. She slammed through the hatch and let loose, fists and boots flying, panels cracked, bulkheads dented, equipment sparked. Crew members ducked and scrambled, desperate to avoid both debris and the captain's wrath. No one dared speak above a whisper. Her voice, raw and jagged, cut through the chaos.
Plans ruined. Wasted years. Gone. That cocksucker will pay. I'll gut him across all timelines if I have to.
She tore a chair from its moorings and sent it spinning, the crash ringing across the deck. The crew looked on, faces pale, eyes darting. They had the artifact. The mission, by all counts, was complete. But this detour, this madness, none of it made sense. One braver than the rest swallowed hard and spoke.
Captain, should we set course for the Iron Revenant? Deliver the artifact to command?
The captain froze for a heartbeat, then ripped the chair she'd been gripping and hurled it with monstrous force. It struck the crewman full in the face, snapping his neck against the bulkhead with a sickening crack. He dropped limp to the deck. The room went still.
No.
Her voice was a war, shaking the walls.
No one makes decisions here but me. We do what I say, when I say, how I say. Any other smartasses want to pipe up?
Silence. Not a breath dared stir.
Didn't think so.
She spat, her hooded face turned toward the bridge window, gaze burning holes through the stars.
Set course for the Dark Rift. I need to think.
A ripple of fear spread through the crew. The Dark Rift. Uncharted. Crawling with smugglers, cutthroats and worse. No IPC dared to police it. Few who entered returned. But to the pirates, it was sanctuary. The captain clenched her fists, chest heaving.
The Baron. Always him, always looming. He'll be dead before I'm done. He will never hold this artifact, never taste its power.
Captain?
A voice squeaked from the back. Her head snapped around, hood shattering her face. The air itself trembling with the promise of violence.
What?
You just killed our navigator. Should we appoint a replacement?
For a long, terrible moment, the captain said nothing. The silence was worse than her rage. Then her hood shifted slightly, as if she might burn the speaker down with her stare. No words came. One of the crew bolted forward, sliding into the navigation station.
Plotting course, Captain,
he stammered.
Dark Rift, right away.
No one else moved. No one else spoke. Not tonight. Not if they wanted to live. In the small eating area, looking lazily about the bland decor of the mess hall, Jojo squinted, lips moving as she traced the letters on the sign above the food replication equipment. Then her eyes went wide.
Wait.
She slapped Zilch's arm.
Z, read that out loud, all of it.
Zilch leaned closer, gills fluttering as he mouthed the words.
Provision exchange, nutritional, inception, system.
A beat of silence. Then his skin flushed a blotchy shade of purple-green as the acronym clicked.
Oh no.
Jojo clapped the hand over her mouth, snickering through her fingers.
Oh, yes.
Sarah raised an unimpressed brow.
Explain.
Jojo grinned so wide her dimples hurt.
PENIS. They named our food station Penis.
Zilch wheezed, half-choked.
We've been eating out of... Oh, gods.
He doubled over in his seat, gills flaring as his body shifted through embarrassed colors. Even Nine's optics flickered oddly, as though his processors were cycling faster.
Designation inefficiency noted. IPC oversight detected.
Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose, exhaling sharply.
This is what happens when bureaucrats name things.
Jojo nearly fell off her chair laughing.
We've got to tell the captain.
No.
Sarah snapped, deadly sharp.
We do not.
Too late. David had stepped in, tray in hand.
Tell the captain what?
Jojo pointed to the glowing console, tears of laughter in her eyes.
Order a meal, boss. Just read the heading first.
David glanced at the console. His face stayed perfectly still for 2 beats. Then he muttered under his breath.
Of course it is.
Mal's voice cut in from behind, gravelly and cold.
Immaturity is unbecoming of rangers.
Jojo whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear.
Still funny, though.
David fought the corner of his mouth threatening to curve, then finally gave in with the faintest smirk. The hollow map guttered out again, the artifact's last blip blinking off into silence. The room sank into the ship's dim blue glow, the hum of the engines pulsing steady and heavy underfoot. David leaned forward against the table, knuckles white against the glassy surface. The frustration in the air wasn't just his, it was everyone's. Jojo broke it first, her voice soft but insisted.
Couldn't we just jump back to the wedding before it went sideways?
All eyes turned toward her. Sarah didn't speak, but her head tilted, a subtle arch of her brow, a breath through her nose. The expression of someone who thought it was a good question, but wouldn't give Jojo the credit.
It's not that simple,
David said. Mal unfolded his arms from where he stood in shadow, his voice like granite cracking.
Temporal law. You don't revisit a moment you've already lived. 2 versions of yourself cross. The paradox tears the line apart. You don't fix it. You will ace everything tied to it.
Jojo blinked, uneasy.
Like whole families?
Zilch's gills flexed, a wet sound in the silence. His voice had the echo of tide pools.
Like a pond emptied in an instant. The minnows never grow. The reeds never rise. Just stone where water once was.
Jojo's face went pale. 9 shifted in the corner, optics glowing faintly.
I have relevant data. During the chase, I ran a scan and...
Gaeta,
Sarah cut across him, her tone flat.
we need a plan, not another one of your trivia lists.
9 stopped, optics dimming a fraction.
Yes, but this data is...
David spoke over him.
The captain isn't moving the cloak the way they should. A courier would have passed it up by now. Instead, they're circling. That's intent.
9's hand twitched in the air.
Yes, and part of my scan showed...
Zilch bubbled the low croak.
A pirate captain circles with purpose. A predator with prey in its mouth, but no pond to feed in.
Jojo leaned forward, her eyes narrowing.
Or maybe they are not hunting. Maybe they are searching. Every move has been from one residence to another. Not secure caches, not couriers, actual homes.
Sarah shifted again, exhaling through her nose. Still no words, just that steady, silent disdain, like pressure in the room. David nodded slowly.
That tracks. They are not delivering. They're stalling.
9 raised his hand higher.
Yes, but to be informative, my scan revealed...
Now finally looked at him.
Finish a sentence before I die of old age, machine.
9 froze, then blurted in one fast breath.
The pirate captain is a woman.
The room went dead still. David blinked. Jojo's mouth fell open. Even Zilch gave a startled croak. Nell's brows pinched together as if 9 had just declared the sky illegal. Sarah finally broke her silence.
And you waited until now to share this?
9's optics flickered.
I attempted to share several times. You interrupted me.
You should have interrupted back,
Maul said flatly.
I lack the specific rudeness subroutines.
Jojo burst into a laugh, half from shock, half from nerves.
Wait, seriously? That's your big data scan?
9 tilted his head, sincere.
It is relevant. She is female. Her hormone cycle indicates a need for feminine provisions, tampons, pads. Maybe they are not standard pirate issue.
Zilch's skin flushed a shade darker.
So, she circles houses, not to trade artifacts, but to seek blood cloths.
Jojo snorted despite herself.
Okay, gross when you say it like that, but it makes sense. If she can't show her face to her own people, she'd need to steal basics somewhere else.
Sarah interrupted.
I highly doubt that a pirate captain would scour the timelines for an appropriate Earth version of her home, disembark an advanced craft to blow up a house to find tampons.
David froze. Jason's house, then Michelle's. His pulse jumped. No, that couldn't be.
She's not running courier,
he said carefully, ignoring the growing irritation on the subject of feminine hygiene, masking his voice.
She's stalling, searching, which means she's vulnerable. And that means we have a chance to corner her.
Sarah's gaze slid to him, sharp, wordless, and heavy. Her silence was louder than any accusation. David didn't let it touch him. Couldn't. Not with the thought pounding in his skull. Jason's house, Michelle's house, and a captain with the woman's face. He swallowed, hard, and forced his tone back into command.
Forward, not back. That's the line. We hunt her on her own path, ahead of her.
Jojo nodded faintly, though her eyes lingered on him. 9 looked oddly pleased with himself, as if sharing tampon intel had been the masterstroke. Zilch gave a low amphibian hum of agreement. Sarah turned her head away, silent, simmering. The hum of the ship filled the silence. David kept his face steady, but inside, the suspicion clawed deeper.
It couldn't be her. Could it?
The holographic ribbon of energy they were tracking shuddered once, then blinked out. One instant, it streamed like molten light across the nav table. The next, the ship was plunged into silence. Jojo's hands flew across controls.
No, come on, don't do this to me.
Zilch tilted his head. Amphibian features bathed in the faint blue glow.
The trail didn't end. It's masking itself. That kind of regression isn't natural.
David forced his breast steady. His gut clenched around one name he didn't want to think about. Michelle. Not now. Out loud, he said.
So we agree, it's not gone, it's hiding?
The hollow flux snapped alive again. This time, the light didn't move forward. It lashed backward, stabbing into an earlier point in the projection. Jojo's eyes widened.
Captain, the trail's gone before us. It's earlier.
Mao leaned closer, thick muscular fingers sweeping through the data with precise control.
Confirmed. Temporal regression vector. If the pirates moved first, they already have position.
In at 9's metallic voice chimed in, cheerful as ever.
Well, looks like we're behind schedule, just like in Jurassic Dark 4. Or was it Jowls 4?
His optic lenses brightened.
One of the 4s, anyway.
Jojo groaned, but kept her focus on the stream. David braced his hands on the table.
Options, now.
Zilch straightened.
Decay ripples remain even when cloaked. If we model their dispersion, we can backtrack to an insertion point. The window will be narrow, but it's there.
Jojo nodded quickly.
I can lock that, but if I do, it'll drain half our reserve cells. That's one chance only.
Now's voice rumbled like distant thunder.
Better one chance with precision than 10 without. The ripples are collapsing. We must commit.
Sarah stepped forward, dark eyes narrowing at the display.
Then, the only real question is, how do we get there before they do?
Her tone wasn't dismissive, more like a challenge to be answered. David looked around the table.
We don't need the ending. We just need the relay point. Jojo, chart the decay. Mal, give her the vectors. Zilch, strip out interference. 9, I want stability when we hit the jump.
9 thudded a metal fist into his palm.
Stability, my specialty. Well, stability in Terran movie trivia.
Mal layered his grid over Jojo's scatter points, the shapes collapsing into alignment.
Trajectory forming. If we synchronize within 32 seconds, we can intercept.
Zilch's webbed fingers flicked across the readout.
Interference neutralized. Coordinates are genuine.
Jojo's breathing quickened.
Trajectory locked. It's like threading a needle, but the path is there.
David gave her the faintest grin.
Then don't miss.
Her cheeks warmed at his attention to her, but she nodded.
I won't.
Sarah's arm stayed crossed, but her voice softened just a touch.
If we land first, the pirates won't know what hit them.
David's eyes lingered on the fading light of the projection. Michelle.
If it's really you, I'll find out why.
Coordinates locked.
Trajectory plotted.
Stability holding at 65%. Just within margin.
Time to kick the tires and light the fires, or grease the wheels and spin the cogs, one of those.
He stated with artificial enthusiasm. David raised his hand, steady and sure.
Execute.
The ship shuddered as the jump primed, light collapsing inward. Together, the Rift Rangers surged into the earlier timeline. The captain's boots echoed through the corridor as she left the cargo bay behind, the smell of scorched wood and drywall still clinging to her cloak. She didn't flinch, didn't look back. She couldn't afford to. Not when the shadows of Antarian 3 pressed against her mind, back when it was her and the Baron, the beginning. She remembered the laughter, the promises, the warmth of his hand when it was still gentle. She had loved him, truly, desperately, with a hunger she hadn't even known lived in her until he fed it. He had courted her with charm and fire, made her feel like she was finally seen, finally chosen. For a time, it was everything she had wanted. But power changes men. His obsession with time, with bending it, breaking it, twisting it into his own game, it hollowed him, inflated him, turned him cruel. She became less a partner and more an accessory, a subordinate, one more body in his ranks. She could endure that. She told herself she could endure it, until she spoke out, until she dared to tell him to ease off, to show mercy to the crew. That was when the slaps began. Quick, sharp, meant to sting. The slaps turned into fists, into boots. Into nights she staggered out of his quarters choking on blood, ribs aching from the weight of his frustrations. She was his outlet, his storm cellar, his whipping post when the IPC blocked another of his schemes. The shame, the humiliation, she could still feel his hand on her throat, hear the snarl of his voice. And when she finally put in for transfer, when she told him she was done, he had laughed, as though she could ever leave him, as though her life and pain were just another game. But she didn't forget. She didn't forgive. The vow had rooted itself deep inside her. One day, she would kill him. One day, she would set it right. Not as the Baron, no. His power by then would make him untouchable. She would strike now, here, when he was still just a man, clawing toward the monster he would become. She could see it so clearly. It was almost beautiful. The market streets slick with his blood, his body broken before history had the chance to crown him. Her crew didn't understand. They whispered about failure, about betrayal, about higher-ups and consequences, but none of that mattered. Nothing mattered but this. They thought she was mad. Maybe she was. But madness was clarity. She adjusted the strap on her pistol, felt the cold weight of the blade hidden in her cloak. Her pulse hammered faster with each step, lips twitching into the ghost of a smile. One way or another, she would end him. She would prevent him. She would unmake him. And if that meant becoming everything he accused her of, weak, unstable, broken, then so be it. Because when she drove the steel through his chest, when she saw the look in his eyes, as he realized who had undone him, she would finally be free. She tugged on the strap of the satchel carrying the artifact, the Chrono-Cloak. This is hers now, to hold, to utilize. to end. Down on the planet she shuttled into, the market stank of waste, a lattice of cracked stone paths half submerged in foul, sluggish streams. Trash bobbed in the muck, clinging to boots as locals shuffled through with eyes downcast. The air was thick with smoke from open fires, laughter cutting sharp as knives, vendors hollering promises of weapons, flesh, or poisons. It was the kind of place where law had no anchor, where the broken and the violent drifted free. Here, on Entorian 3's shadowed side, it wasn't chaos. It was normal. The captain moved through it like a phantom, her hood drawn low. She could smell the sweat on her own skin, feel the beads crawling down the line of her back beneath her clothes. Her fingers tightened around the dagger, its edge already slick in her imagination with the blood she had craved for years. Every step was rehearsed, every breath timed, every flicker of thought circling back to the same truth. This is it. This is now. Jason. No, the Baron. She spotted him with the ease of a predator recognizing its prey. He looked the same as she remembered in those early days. Handsome, cocky, the kind of Terran presence that drew eyes from every angle. Among the locals, his features carried the glow of divinity, a false god striding through filth. He was laughing, counting out his money to a vendor who produced for him a polished blade across the stall. Another toy for his arsenal. Another tool for his ego. Another reason she hated him. The Chrono-Cloak weighed heavy in her satchel. Hers now. Her weapon, her shield, her means of ending him and vanishing before anyone could stop her. She touched it once, briefly, reassurance in the form of destiny. She could already taste it. The moment the dagger would drive into his chest, the moment his blood would smear across her fingers. She wanted it on her tongue, wanted to savor it as a sacrament. Every muscle coiled tighter with anticipation, rehearsing each counter he might make, every angle, every strike. She had played this death in her mind so many times that it already felt like memory. Michelle's pace was quick, almost frantic, heels striking stone as she shoved her way deeper into the market. The air was thick with the crush of bodies, and the stench of too many things at once. Spices sharp as fire, roasted meats dripping fat, the bitter tang of engine grease from street stalls selling scavenged tech. Her eyes darted, wild and restless, every face a threat, every shadow a hiding place. A vendor shouted, waving a skewer of steaming flesh in her face. She nearly shivered from his hand, snapping at him with a snarl, before pushing past. Another stall spilled with bolts of iridescent fabric, shimmering with colors that hurt to look at. She yanked her coat tighter around her, convinced the cloth itself might be mocking her. Noise. Heat. The hum of neon signs that flickered against her skin. She shouldered through a group of eel-faced merchants, her breath sharp, uneven. Sweat slicked her palms though the air was cool. Everywhere she looked, she saw weapons. Not just the blades on display, or the rifles stacked in wire crates. The curve of a vendor's smile, the glint of coins on a belt, the sway of a curtain hiding gods know what. All of it screamed threat, screamed violence. Her fingers wrapped even tighter around the dagger hidden beneath her coat. She could almost feel it pulsing, urging her forward, promising that all of this, the noise, the stench, the endless confusion, would vanish once she buried it in the Baron's chest. A laugh burst from her throat, high and ragged, startling the child who'd been tugging at her mother's sleeve. Michelle didn't notice. Her vision tunneled, narrowing down the crowded street, to one door, one corridor, one target. That was when the crowd shifted. Not in fear, not yet, but with the subtle ripple of presence. A shadow passing across stalls, a pocket of stillness opening in the chaos. A figure threading through the throng with deliberate steps, not rushing, not stumbling, but parting the sea of merchants and shoppers by sheer gravity. He turned. Coins jingled into his pocket as he moved to the back of the vendor's stall, out of sight of the crowd. Her heart surged. It was time. Jason strode away from the stall, with a spring in his step, running his thumb along the new weapon's edge as though it were a trophy. The vendor was still smiling, blissfully unaware that half the coins jingling in his hand were clever fakes. Jason smirked.
Stupid locals. So fucking gullible.
He slid the blade into his belt and straightened his cloak.
Best get moving. Don't want anyone getting wise too soon.
His mind drifted, as it sometimes did, to the empty space at his side. He needed a new crew captain, someone loyal, someone pliable.
With that bitch Michelle gone, maybe I'll finally have space to breathe. Space to think my own thoughts without her constant corrections.
Still, There were times his mind wandered back, the beginning, the way she had looked at him, the laughter, the warmth, the fire, good times, before. He shook it away. No use living in the past. The now, the here and now, things were looking up for. He froze. A prickle ran up his spine. His nostrils flared. He smelled it, feminine energy, raw fear and fury, sharp as iron on his tongue. He spun just in time to see her. Michelle. Her eyes wide and blazing, her hands clenched around a dagger raised above her head, charging at him with the force of years of hate, compressed into one final lunge. He didn't even have time for words. Too close, too fast. He threw his arms up in reflex, bracing for the impact. The air burst out of Michelle's lungs as Saravek slammed into her from the side, driving her into the filthy stone street. The dagger spun free, clattering into the muck.
No, no!
Michelle's scream was primal, her face twisted with rage and terror.
I had him. I had him.
Sarah pinned her, cool as ice, not even winded.
You had nothing. Now stay down.
Sarah's fist fell in one swift movement to punch Michelle in the face. From above, Jojo dropped into the fray in a perfect three-point superhero landing. Her grin was radiant.
I always wanted to do this entrance.
Without missing a beat, she dove for Michelle's satchel, ripped it clean off her shoulder, tucked into a roll, and hurled it across the market with precise grace. Nine caught the bag mid-stride as he rounded the corner, plating gleaming. He held it aloft like a prize.
Chrono-Cloak secured.
Jason blinked, then smirked. Fools. In the chaos, no one noticed him slip away into the crowd, vanishing down the alleyways, until he was nothing but another shadow in the market's filth. Sarah yanked Michelle onto her stomach, and slapped powered restraints on her wrists with a sharp click. Michelle's fury shattered, collapsing into sobs.
It's him. He needs to stop. He needs to die.
Her voice cracked, broken and raw, spilling out years of torment. Sarah leaned down close, her whisper a blade across the ear.
Get a grip, bitch. You're embarrassing yourself.
David emerged from the opposite street with Mal at his side. His eyes swept the scene, sharp and assessing before falling on Jojo.
Excellent timing. Exactly where we needed to be.
Jojo flushed crimson, her heart skipping in her chest. She turned away quickly, but the pride burned in her cheeks all the same. Michelle lifted her head, her tear-streaked eyes locking onto David's, and David froze. Recognition. Something familiar, yet alien. The silence stretched, the din of the market falling away, as if the world itself held its breath. Their gazes held, deep and searching, for a moment too long. Then David's jaw set. Reality snapped back into place.
Get her on board. The cloak, too. We're taking them both back to IPC.
The Rangers moved at once, the crowd already dispersing, the chaos folding back into the filth of the streets. And in the shadows, the man who would become the Baron was already gone, his memory slipping like smoke into history.
Professional audiobooks in a click.
Spoken.